Do you remember Stalag 13 from Hogan's Heroes? The series once had millions of viewers laughing out loud with its jokes between officers and prisoners. But behind that laughter lies a chilling truth. Nearly the entire cast ended their lives in tragedy. War, illness, addiction, and lonely deaths quietly awaited them in real life. In 2025, looking back, the story is far more heartbreaking than you might have imagined. Bob Crane as Colonel Robert Hogan. Bob Crane, full name Robert Edward Crane, was born on July 13, 1928, in Waterbury, Connecticut. At 37 years old, he played Colonel Robert Hogan, the clever leader of the American prisoners at Stalag 13 in Hogan's Heroes in 1965. The role catapulted him to the peak of American television fame, making him a familiar face in millions of households. But behind the stage lights, Crane's inner life and marriage quietly began to fracture. His first marriage to Ann Terzian, his high school sweetheart and the mother of his 3 children, collapsed after years of mounting tension. Enormous success, a punishing work schedule, and growing emotional distance slowly tore the family apart. After the divorce, Crane slid into a profound emptiness, craving desire and recognition. He fell into sex addiction, seeking gratification as a way to compensate for his loneliness. Later roles, such as The Wicked Dreams of Paula Schultz, 1968, could not conceal the deepening insecurity in his private life. His second marriage, to actress Patricia Olson, stage name Sigrid Valdis, who had appeared with him on Hogan's Heroes, was also doomed. Jealousy, deceit, and dark secrets made the relationship suffocating. As Crane's career declined, finances became unstable and Hollywood turned its back on him, further eroding the marriage. He drifted from one dinner theater to another, carrying a fear of being forgotten and a sense of shame. On June 29, 1978, Bob Crane was found brutally murdered in a hotel room in Scottsdale, Arizona, at the age of 49. He had been beaten with a blunt object believed to be a camera tripod and strangled with an electrical cord. The case remains unsolved to this day. Crane was laid to rest at Westwood Village Memorial Park with an estimated net worth of only about $250,000, a cold ending for a man who had once been an icon of American television. Werner Klemperer as Colonel Wilhelm Klink. Werner Klemperer was born on March 22, 1920, in Cologne, Germany. At 45 years old, he portrayed Colonel Wilhelm Klink, the cowardly, foolish German commandant of Stalag 13, in Hogan's Heroes in 1965. He accepted the role only on the condition that Klink would be a figure of ridicule, an open mockery of fascism. That decision protected his conscience, but also bound him forever to a defining role. Klemperer's marital life was likewise marked by strain and disappointment. His first marriage did not last, leaving behind a lingering sense of failure and regret. He later married Susan Dempsey, with whom he had 2 children, but professional pressure and unresolved trauma continued to place stress on the family. Eventually, they separated, sharing responsibility for their 2 children. His final marriage, to actress Kim Hamilton, his partner for more than 2 decades before they wed, brought him stability late in life. Still, in his final years, cancer quietly eroded his health, bringing physical pain and emotional fragility. Klemperer sought refuge in classical art and the stage, leaving notable marks in works such as Cabaret, Broadway, 1987, and various opera roles. Sadly, Werner Klemperer passed away on December 6, 2000, in Manhattan, at the age of 80, after a long battle with cancer. He was cremated and his ashes were scattered at sea, closing the life of an artist who lived between honor and historical trauma. His net worth at the time of death was estimated at around $5 million, but his greatest legacy remains the image of a man who dared to turn pain into laughter for audiences everywhere. John Banner as Sergeant Hans Schultz. John Banner, born Johann Banner, was born on January 28, 1910, in Stanislau, Austria-Hungary. He was 55 years old when he played Sergeant Hans Schultz, the portly, good-natured German guard with the immortal catchphrase, "I know nothing," in Hogan's Heroes in 1965. The character made all of America laugh, but behind it was a life marked by pain that was never a joke. His first marriage to Illa Raudnitz ended very early, leaving Banner alone during his years of exile. As an Austrian Jew, he lost nearly his entire family in the Holocaust. That pain became even more bitter when his career forced him to repeatedly play German soldiers and Nazi officers, the very people who had murdered his relatives. Films such as The Young Lions, 1958, and 36 Hours, 1964, provided him with work, but also compelled him to relive horrific memories through his own face on screen. His second marriage to French wife Renée Christine Guillemette Moore, whom he married in 1965, brought Banner rare warmth in his later years. However, his health steadily declined, compounded by decades of psychological strain. After Hogan's Heroes ended, he became almost permanently typecast as Schultz, appearing only sporadically in a few minor roles before withdrawing from the spotlight. Finally, on January 28, 1973, his 63rd birthday, John Banner passed away in Vienna, Austria, from an abdominal hemorrhage caused by a ruptured aneurysm while visiting friends. His estimated net worth at the time of his death was around $500,000, modest compared to the emotional legacy he left behind. Richard Dawson as Corporal Peter Newkirk. Richard Dawson, born Colin Lionel M., was born on November 20, 1932, in Gosport, Hampshire, England. At 33 years old, he played Corporal Peter Newkirk, the clever, quick-witted con man of the POW group, in Hogan's Heroes in 1965. The role brought Dawson rapid fame, but it also planted the seeds of long-term instability in his personal life. His first marriage to screen star Diana Dors was a series of violent clashes between two powerful egos. The pressures of fame, money, and jealousy led to a painful divorce, with Dawson gaining custody of their two sons and raising them in isolation. After Hogan's Heroes, as his acting career slowed, he carried professional envy and a sense of being surpassed by others, pushing him into a prolonged state of insecurity. His second marriage to Gretchen Johnson, more than 20 years younger than him and a former Family Feud contestant, brought late happiness, but not without complications. Dawson's habit of kissing female contestants on television made him famous while also attracting criticism and legal pressure. At the same time, his health deteriorated due to heavy smoking, leading to esophageal cancer. Tragically, Richard Dawson passed away on June 2, 2012, in Los Angeles at the age of 79 from complications of esophageal cancer. He was laid to rest at Westwood Memorial Park, where many Hollywood icons are buried. Despite once being a powerful television figure, his net worth at the time of his death was only about $100,000, leaving behind the image of a man who laughed a great deal on screen. Larry Hovis as Sergeant Andrew Carter. Larry Hovis, full name Larry Vaughn Hovis, was born on February 20, 1936, in Wapato, Washington. At just 29 years old, he played Sergeant Andrew Carter, the gentle explosives expert who always carried an air of optimism inside the Stalag 13 prison camp, in Hogan's Heroes in 1965. The character made him beloved by audiences, but it also marked the beginning of a personal journey defined by quiet sacrifice and restraint. Hovis's marriage to Carol Ann Corrigan lasted for decades and appeared stable on the surface, yet beneath it lay years of silent endurance. Financial pressure, both before and after Hogan's Heroes, left him with the constant feeling that he had never truly found his footing in the industry. When his television career failed to break through, he accepted small, scattered roles and alternated them with script-writing work to support his family. Appearances on The Andy Griffith Show and Gomer Pyle, USMC, provided income, but not enough to erase his fear of being forgotten. After the series ended, emotional strain gradually turned into physical exhaustion. Esophageal cancer arrived as a late, devastating blow, forcing Hovis to withdraw from Hollywood and accept a life with far less spotlight. He turned to teaching acting at a university in Texas, trying to preserve a sense of professional purpose as his health declined. His behind-the-scenes contributions to Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In had once given him pride, but long nights battling illness returned again and again, deepening the quiet, persistent pain. Sadly, Larry Hovis passed away on September 9, 2003, at the age of 67, after a prolonged fight with esophageal cancer. He died quietly, leaving behind an estimated net worth of around $1 million and the memory of a devoted artist who gave far more than he ever received in return. Ivan Dixon as Sergeant James Kinchlow. Ivan Dixon, full name Ivan Nathaniel Dixon III, was born on April 6, 1931, in Harlem, New York. At 34 years old, he played Sergeant James Kinchlow, the communications specialist and Hogan's calm, intelligent right-hand man, in Hogan's Heroes in 1965. As one of the few black actors in a sitcom of that era, he stepped into the role with hope, but also carried unspoken burdens. Dixon's enduring marriage to Burley Ray Dixon became a rare anchor amid professional disappointment. Despite a stable family life, he continued to suffer emotional pain from being repeatedly limited in his roles because of his race. During Hogan's Heroes, he gradually sensed that Kinch was not being developed as fully as he deserved, and the silence imposed on his character mirrored the silence Hollywood imposed on him in real life. Illness arrived slowly but relentlessly. Chronic kidney disease forced Dixon to withdraw gradually from acting, while his efforts as a director, especially with The Spook Who Sat by the Door, led to his isolation for daring to confront injustice directly. The pressure of social struggle, his family watching him grow weaker day by day, and persistent physical pain made his final years increasingly heavy. Tragically, Ivan Dixon passed away on March 16, 2008, at the age of 76 due to complications from kidney failure. He left behind an estimated net worth of around $500,000 and a profound spiritual legacy, the image of a man who endured both illness and injustice, yet never lost his dignity or his voice. Sigrid Valdis as Fraulein Hilda. Sigrid Valdis, whose real name was Patricia Annette Olson, was born on September 21, 1935, in Bakersfield, California. At 30 years old, she played Fraulein Hilda, the sharp, cold secretary to Colonel Klink in Hogan's Heroes in 1965. The role made her a recognizable face on American television, but it also pulled her into a chain of private tragedies with no clear escape. Sigrid Valdis's marital life was deeply marked by loss and emotional trauma. Her first marriage, to George Gilbert Atiyeh, ended with her husband's sudden death in 1967, leaving her alone to raise a young child. Before she could recover, she entered a second marriage with Bob Crane in 1970. But their happiness was short-lived as the relationship quietly sank into addiction and a distorted sexual life. The years she spent with Crane were filled with tension, suspicion, and emotional wounds as she watched her husband gradually lose control of himself. The tragedy reached its peak when Bob Crane was murdered in 1978. Valdis not only lost her husband, but was also pulled into a vortex of suspicion, rumors, and public scrutiny. Once an actress who had appeared in Our Man Flint, 1966, and The Wild Wild West, she chose to withdraw completely from Hollywood, taking her child and leaving Los Angeles to escape the scandal. Ultimately, Sigrid Valdis passed away on October 14, 2007, in California, at the age of 72, from lung cancer after a long battle with illness. She was laid to rest beside Bob Crane at Westwood Village Memorial Park. Her estimated net worth at the time of her death was around $1 million, but the emotional and reputational cost she paid was far greater. Cynthia Lynn as Fräulein Helga. Cynthia Lynn, born Zintavalda Ziemelis, was born on April 2, 1937, in Riga, Latvia. At 28 years old, she played Fräulein Helga, the first secretary to Colonel Klink, in Hogan's Heroes in 1965. Her cold, mysterious beauty quickly drew attention, but the role also marked the beginning of deep fractures in her personal life. A romantic relationship between Cynthia Lynn and Bob Crane reportedly began on the set, at a time when she was believed to have been emotionally involved elsewhere. That discreet, yet highly tense affair made the working environment suffocating, and Lynn ultimately left the series after just one season. Her departure not only ended a promising role, but also branded her as trouble, narrowing her career path despite later appearances in Mission Impossible and The Odd Couple. After stepping away from the spotlight, Lynn chose to retreat behind the scenes to raise her child and live privately. Unfinished relationships, lingering rumors, and the sense of lost opportunity left her carrying deep emotional wounds for many years. Hepatitis developed quietly, gradually destroying her body and leading to multiple organ failure. In her final years, she wrote memoirs as a way to release her memories, yet loneliness and regret never fully left her. Cynthia Lynn passed away on March 10, 2014, at the age of 77, from multiple organ failure following complications of hepatitis. She died quietly, leaving behind an estimated net worth of around $500,000, along with the image of a woman who once touched fame but was forced to walk away from it because of wounds too deep for Hollywood ever to understand. Leon Askin as General Albert Burkhalter. Leon Askin, born Leo Ashkenazi, was born on September 18, 1907, in Vienna, Austria. At 58 years old, he played General Albert Burkhalter, the blustering, intimidating German general who was constantly manipulated, in Hogan's Heroes in 1965. On screen, he became a symbol of fascist authority turned into ridicule. Off-screen, that role was a mask concealing a life marked by wounds that never fully healed. Askin's marriages clearly reflected decades of inner fracture. His first marriage to Louise Huntington Smith, followed by his marriage to Anneliese Ehrlich, both ended in collapse, as memories of torture by the Gestapo and the devastating news that his parents had been murdered at the Treblinka extermination camp weighed relentlessly on his psyche. Although he continued to work steadily, appearing in films such as 1, 2, 3, 1961, Askin lived with the guilt of a survivor, a burden that made lasting emotional attachment difficult and kept him emotionally distant even from those closest to him. In his later years, his third marriage to Anita Witcher brought a measure of late peace, yet the old pain never disappeared. Each time he portrayed a German officer, even in satirical films like Airplane 2, the sequel, 1982, he was forced to confront memories of fleeing, of loss, and of total upheaval. Sadly, Leon Askin passed away on June 3, 2005, in Vienna at the age of 97 from natural causes. He was laid to rest at the Vienna Central Cemetery, leaving behind an estimated net worth of around $2 million and a bitter legacy, using laughter to mock evil while carrying unspoken pain throughout his life. Robert Clary as Corporal Louis Lebeau. Robert Clary, born Robert Max Witterman, was born on March 1, 1926, in Paris, France. He was 39 years old when he played Corporal Louis Lebeau, the small, quick-witted, and emotionally expressive French prisoner in Hogan's Heroes in 1965. Few would have guessed that behind the smile and the singing voice stood a man who had survived a living hell. Clary's marriage to Natalie Cantor, the daughter of comedian Eddie Cantor, became a rare source of shelter after the war. Yet even within that stable love, memories of Buchenwald, where he lost 10 siblings in the Holocaust, returned night after night. While appearing on Days of Our Lives and The Bold and the Beautiful, Clary maintained a cheerful public image, but in private he battled nightmares, cold sweats, and the crushing guilt of being the only survivor. After his wife passed away in 1997, loneliness cut even deeper. Clary devoted much of his time to speaking publicly about the Holocaust. In his final years, his body weakened under the weight of memories that had followed him since childhood. Ultimately, Robert Clary passed away on November 16, 2022, in California at the age of 96, from natural causes. He left behind an estimated net worth of around $1 million, along with a profound humanitarian legacy, a reminder that some people make us laugh on screen, while spending their entire lives living with darkness so the world will never forget. Howard Kane, as Major Wolfgang Hochstetter. Howard Kane, born Howard Elmer Cohen, was born on January 2, 1926, in Nashville, Tennessee. In Hogan's Heroes in 1965, he was only 39 years old when he played Gestapo Major Wolfgang Hochstetter, the cold, razor-sharp hunter who constantly made life inside Stalag 13 feel suffocating. The role brought him peak recognition, but it also confined his entire professional life and left quiet fractures behind the scenes. His long marriage to Joan Ellen Drossen lasted more than 2 decades, resilient yet heavily strained by an exhausting work pace and lingering post-war tension. Kane carried psychological aftershocks from his service in the U.S. Navy during World War II, compounded by being repeatedly cast as villains, which made emotional release difficult. Despite striking appearances in Judgment at Nuremberg, 1961, and hundreds of television programs, the feeling of being trapped in a single face slowly drained his marriage, creating distance and fatigue. After his divorce, he found late peace when he married Valerie Elson in 1991, but his health no longer allowed for a full new beginning. Heart disease progressed quietly, forcing Kane to gradually step away from the Hollywood grind. He turned to teaching acting and immersed himself in Appalachian folk music. Roles such as those in The Man from UNCLE continued to be remembered, but the cost was a body growing weaker and persistent exhaustion. Howard Kane passed away on December 28, 1993, in North Hollywood, at the age of 67, from a heart attack, just days before his birthday. He left behind an estimated net worth of around $1 million and the image of a gifted artist who spent a lifetime battling a weary heart after embodying evil so others could laugh. Kathleen Freeman as Frau Gertrude Linkmeyer. Kathleen Freeman, born on February 17, 1919, in Chicago. He appeared in Hogan's Heroes in 1965 at 46 years old and played Frau Gertrude Linkmeyer, the irritable, sharp-tongued German woman who constantly energized the show's comic rhythm. Over more than half a century in the profession, she became a supporting soul of laughter. Behind that legacy, however, was a life filled with difficulty. She chose not to marry and devoted her entire life to stage and film, yet being permanently typecast in comic supporting roles became a lasting source of pain. She shone brightly in The Nutty Professor, 1963, and dozens of Jerry Lewis films, but leading roles always slipped through her grasp. The repetition of similar characters often caused her artistic efforts to be overlooked, forcing Freeman to balance performing with teaching in order to sustain both her passion and the next generation. In her final years, just as professional recognition finally peaked with a Tony Award nomination for The Full Monty, 2001, lung cancer quietly drained her strength. She continued working, voice acting and appearing on television, from Shrek to sitcoms, until her body could no longer endure. Kathleen Freeman passed away on August 23, 2001, at the age of 82, from lung cancer. She was cremated and laid to rest at Hollywood Forever, leaving behind an estimated net worth of around $1 million and a quiet legacy. The laughter created by supporting roles that carried entire films, even when her name rarely topped the marquee. Bernard Fox as Colonel Rodney Crittenden. Bernard Fox, born Bernard Lawson, was born on May 11, 1927, in Port Talbot, Wales. At 38 years old, he played Colonel Rodney Crittenden, a self-important Royal Air Force officer who always believed himself to be a master strategist, yet was constantly outmaneuvered in Hogan's Heroes in 1965. The character delivered a refined, distinctly British style of humor, while also permanently tying Fox's image to the archetype of the English gentleman for the rest of his life. Bernard Fox's career path was long, steady, and marked by quiet sacrifice. Born into a multi-generational family of performers, he carried the pressure of sustaining a career in the unforgiving environment of Hollywood. Although he appeared consistently in television and film, Fox was repeatedly typecast as the British man, polite, classical, and rarely given explosive, dramatic space. Roles such as those on The Andy Griffith Show and Bewitched, as Dr. Bombay, made him beloved by audiences, but also kept him confined to a charming comic shadow, never allowing him to break through into long-running leading roles. In middle age, Fox accepted a pragmatic strategy of working to live, taking intelligent supporting roles to maintain a stable presence. He appeared in 2 Titanic disaster films nearly 40 years apart, From a Night to Remember, 1958, to Titanic, 1997. Sadly, Bernard Fox passed away on December 14, 2016, at the age of 89, from natural causes. He left behind an estimated net worth of around $2 million and the image of a persevering artist, one who did not need big roles to be remembered, only the right presence at the right moment. John Cedar as Corporal Carl Langenscheidt. John Cedar, born on January 22, 1931. He was 34 years old when he played Corporal Carl Langenscheidt, the timid, gentle German soldier who was frequently swept into awkward situations in Hogan's Heroes in 1965. The role brought him steady recognition, but not enough to guarantee a secure career in competitive Hollywood. After the Korean War, Cedar threw himself into acting with great determination, but harsh realities quickly eroded his expectations. He appeared in numerous television series, from The Man from UNCLE to Murder, She Wrote, yet most were short-term supporting roles with unstable income. His marriage to Barbara Cedar became an anchor, but financial pressure forced the couple to open a script typing service just to survive during the hardest years. Acting gradually became a secondary profession to support another profession. Even so, Cedar did not give up. He wrote screenplays, co-produced the horror film The Manitou, 1978, and accepted a change in direction in order to endure. When leukemia emerged, he withdrew from the casting circuit and shifted into acting coaching, passing on his experience to the next generation. This became the calmest period of his life. Sadly, John Cedar passed away on April 14, 2011, at the age of 80, due to leukemia. He left behind an estimated net worth of around $800,000 and a quiet legacy, the story of a working actor who chose family and professional dignity, even when it meant paying the price in lost fame. They once made us laugh inside the walls of Stalag 13, but time had very different plans for them. Behind the jokes and uniforms were lives marked by war trauma, illness, broken dreams, and quiet suffering. Now, decades later, their smiles live on only in reruns and fading memories. Which cast member's story shocked you the most, and which one deserves to be remembered better? Subscribe, like, and comment below to keep these stories alive and honor the legacy of Hogan's Heroes, 1965.